listening to Give God 90, where we're not afraid of the tough biblical questions, because we will dig through the language, the culture, and the history to find the truth revealed in the words of our Creator.
Happy Monday, everyone. Yes, those words do go together, believe it or not. Hope you're having a good day. I am being closely monitored and supervised.
Yes, you are. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us.
If you haven't been to GiveGod90.com lately, give me a couple of hours to update it, and there will be something there that you might find interesting. If you like what you hear, chances are everyone else will as well. So don't be afraid of those share buttons. Do all the things that help us get found easier, just like you found us. So I want to say something. I typically don't follow the Olympics. And I realized something this morning that, I was watching the news, and I realized that golf has become an Olympic sport somehow. And I don't know how that happened. And I'm not degrading any athletes. Some of them are exceptionally talented. But why is golf an Olympic sport? I mean, can we expect to see yard croquet next or something? Let's get back to real athletics in the Olympics. Okay? We don't need snowboarding. We don't need skateboarding. I don't see those as Olympic sports. Those are things that really just need to be done by people who enjoy it. Where's the competition? Seriously. Some things are just meant to be enjoyed. Some things are meant to be just games. Chess does not need to be an Olympic sport. Okay? Just saying. My opinion doesn't mean anything. Let the exceptionally talented athletes compete. Okay? Now, moving on. Exercising faith. And you'll see where this comes from in a moment. A very good friend of ours years ago was involved in a absolutely horrific traffic accident. He was hit head on. He was traveling 55 miles an hour. The car that hit him was traveling, I think it was 109 miles an hour. Just a horrific accident. And as a result, he sustained some life-threatening and life-shortening injuries. Because he speaks of this often, I'm sure he wouldn't mind a shout out here. If you are so inclined, you can listen to his story. If you go to his YouTube channel, True Word of Faith for Life with Dr. Sean, I've left a link to that in the comments. He mentioned in one of his videos that people often say to him, I wish I had your faith. And yes, Dr. Sean has a very strong faith and belief in our Creator. I made a comment on that video, and the comment was basically, faith is kind of like a muscle. It needs to be worked to get stronger. And he agreed. He agreed with that. And it made me start thinking about how we're able to put our faith to work, or how we're able to exercise our faith. And what I found is kind of odd in a way. Because when we look up the word faith, the first time it's used in King James, it is not until we get to Numbers 12:7. But there's kind of a translation issue. As faith, or actually faithful in this verse, is the same Hebrew word found in Genesis 15:6. Now, I'm going to let Meyer read these two verses, and I want you to see if you can pick up, what the similarity is here.
My servant Moses is not so, who is faithful in all mine house. Numbers 12, verse 7. And he believed in the Lord, and he counted it to him for righteousness. Genesis 15, verse 6.
So did you see it? Did you hear it? Did you figure it out? The Strong's number is Hebrew 539, pronounced Aman. And the actual Strong's definition is to confirm or support. It could very possibly be the actual origin of our English word amen. Now, most dictionaries, most etymology sites will give the origin of the Hebrew word for amen as amet, meaning truth. That's Strong's Hebrew number 571, if you're keeping score. But there's quite a difference between ending a prayer with truth or with confirmation and support, isn't there? But, the Yiddish pronunciation of amen would be more confirmation than truth as well. So that's just a little rabbit trail for you to follow if you're interested. But either way, we see in Genesis, Abraham believed. He had faith, right? Because in the Genesis verse, believed is faith or faithful. He had faith. And I can't locate a verse in the original that specifically reads Abraham trusted God. But we can see through Abraham's actions that he did indeed trust his Creator completely. I mean, after all, who other than someone who trusted the Almighty would march their son up the mountain to the altar, right? And the reason I'm looking at these words this way is to help us understand that faith isn't simply something we have. You have to do something with it, right? And today, in today's language, especially in English, things get kind of convoluted a little bit, because we can have faith that the chair we're about to sit in is not going to collapse when we sit in it. We can have faith that when we get into a car, the driver can safely get us where we're going. We have faith when we get on a boat that whoever's in charge of the boat can, not sink the boat, right? We can have faith that if we get on an airplane, whoever's flying the airplane has the skill to land that airplane safely, right? Well, faith today has a lot of potential meanings, right? But faith, when you put it together with belief and trust, we seem to get something much more specific. Faith together with belief and trust needs to be practiced. It needs to be worked. It needs to be exercised to become strong. And that's where our dear friend Sean is a great example. Sure, he has faith. But knowing his days on this earth are going to be shortened, he exercises his faith by combining it with trust and belief in his Creator. And that trust and belief that the Almighty will keep his promises of everlasting life. And Sean's accepted that promise just as Abraham did. The trust and the belief is there. And it shows in, I won't say everything he does, because, you don't have to have faith to get a shower, right? But you know what I mean, I hope. It shows in the way he lives his life. Yeshua, Jesus, uses this hopefully familiar example, if you want to read that for us.
Jesus answered, "You were not able to drive out the demon because your faith is too small. I tell you the truth, if your faith is as big as a mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, 'Move from here to there,' and the mountain will move. All things will be possible for you." Matthew chapter 17, verse 20.
What we're missing that he didn't include, and he didn't include it because the people he was speaking to knew what he was talking about. Even if you have just a little bit of faith, when you combine that with belief and trust in the Creator that he is who he is who he tells us he does what he tells us he's going to do, he keeps his promise, you can do anything as long as it is in his plan, as long as it's in his will. Now, if you're just wanting to show off and you tell a mountain to leave, it's not going to leave because you're the one showing off, right? If you say to a tree, uproot, and all you're doing is trying to show off or prove something to someone, it's not going to move. You don't have anything to prove to anybody. But if you're doing these things for the glory of the Almighty, not to show off, not to brag, not to boast, but to show his glory, his strength, and his honor, and he chooses to agree with you, then those things will happen. You've heard me say often that when something bad happens to good people, it can be so that we're able to display our faith to the folks around us. And many of these folks might not have the chance to recognize the faith without some outside influence, whether it's going to be an illness, an accident, a death of someone close to us. Those are the kind of things that really stand out for people who completely trust the Almighty. Now, Dr. Sean's not a medical doctor. He holds, I think, now 3 postgraduate degrees in theology. One of the most intelligent people that I know. And yet, with all that education, with all that knowledge, how could anybody actually display the faith and trust in the Creator within the confines of either a church or a classroom where a lot of people just aren't going to go? Some folks will never step into a class where the Bible's being taught. But because of the accident, many, many, many more people are exposed to his faith. And in that regard, Dr. Sean is much like Job, right? Our Creator trusted Job to defeat Satan. Our Creator, I think, likes to trust Dr. Sean because he has the ability to display his faith, his belief, and his trust to many, many people who would not be exposed to that just because of where he might go. But now he has to go other places. He has to go to doctor's offices. He does all these things. And although that accident was devastating for him, his family, and his friends, would he have ever thought of going to the places that he went to or that he has to go now to meet the people he's meeting now? So when these people look at him and say, I wish I had your faith, isn't it amazing that he's able to do the things he's doing, to display his faith, his trust, his belief in our Creator? What people see in Sean's reactions to his condition is a trust so strong, so complete in the Almighty, that it gives them the desire to strengthen their faith. Now, some of you might be wondering how we strengthen our faith without needing to go through something quite so devastating, right? Well, we need to exercise it. Here's where I get to use my favorite line. We need to live the way our Creator designed us to live. And sometimes that's hard to do, right? Let's face it, it's kind of hard to do sometimes. It can be very, very hard to say to your family or friends that you want to be obedient to the word of the Creator. Sometimes it's hard to turn down something that someone's prepared to eat because it's not biblically clean. Sometimes it's hard to walk away from a worship community when you realize they're worshiping themselves and they're not worshiping the Creator. Sometimes it's hard to say to someone close to you that I'm not willing to take part in your sin. Doing the hard things like that is exercising your faith and your trust and your belief. It's much like going to the gym to exercise your body. You're exercising your faith. You're putting it to work. Much like doing a hard day's work, though. When you exercise your faith, you get a sense of accomplishment. You're able to see the results of your work. Being faithful, being obedient, trusting your Creator completely. It's not always easy. Not always easy at all. Do you really think Noah had an easy time building the ark? Let's face it. It was tough. It was hard work. He didn't have an easy time of that. Do you really think that Abraham had an easy time walking Isaac up that hill, tying his hands, laying him all on the altar and picking up that knife? Do you think that was easy for Abraham? Do you think Moses had it easy? If you read his books, he tells you how difficult it was. Don't think the disciples had it easier either. Look at what they went through. How about the prophets? Isaiah. More than likely, it's a actual account that he had to hide in a hollow tree, and, well, they decided they were going to cut the tree in half. Do you think that was easy for Isaiah? The Almighty never promises us an easy life. He promises us a long, joyful, successful, and productive life. Sean tells us that at his accident, the first responders thought he was gone. They thought he died. 3 of them looked at him and said, "Nope, he's out of here." And it wasn't until somebody was walking by and he had opened his eyes that they began to extract him from that pile of metal that used to be a vehicle. In a way, Sean's life was extended much longer than the first responders considered. Now, I would encourage you to listen to him tell the story of his ordeal. And again, that's linked to his YouTube channel I put in the comments. It's True Words of Faith for Life, if you want to search for it. Exercising our faith, and here's where I get to upset the Christians. Exercising our faith is more than dropping a check in an offering plate. It's more than serving food at a free lunch line. That's the easy out. You can't pay for faith. Service is more worship. If you want to exercise your faith, and you can do it every day, it's not always easy, but you do the right thing. The thing that is right in the eyes of the Almighty, not in the eyes of your pastor, not in the eyes of your spouse, not in the eyes of your parents, in the eyes of the Almighty. I often get accused, people say, well, you're challenging my faith. That's not what I'm doing. Not at all. But I will admit freely to challenging the way you practice or the way you exercise your faith. In the years that I've been writing books and publishing these podcasts, I've met a lot of really wonderful people who have a very strong faith, and some who don't. Some want a strong faith, and some don't. But what's really upsetting is when I hear people who have been told, oh, if you just believe in Jesus, your life will get so much better. Where does it say that in the Bible? Doesn't he say, pick up the thing they're going to persecute you with and follow me? Right? Sounds like something I want to sign up for. Oh, gee, I want to be persecuted. I want to be made fun of. I want to be ridiculed. I want to be killed. Not quite, right? But there are people out there who are promoting that. Oh, if you just believe in Jesus, everything will be fine. It's not the way it works. Because believing is just the beginning. What's the famous line out of James? Even the demons believe and they tremble. Believing is just the beginning. Learning how to combine that belief with trust to get the faith you want can be a spiritual workout. It's tough sometimes. I told somebody the other day, my least favorite exercise is pushing myself away from the supper table. But if you want to lose weight, it's a very important exercise to do. If you want to strengthen your faith, you have to exercise it as well. Through prayer, obedience, doing what's right, even when it's hard. And when you don't think you have the strength to keep exercising your faith, your Creator will give you that strength. I don't often quote Paul. Very rarely, right? But Paul wrote, run the race. He didn't write, oh, you have to ride in the golf cart. He didn't say you have to walk. He said run, exercise. After all, anything worthwhile isn't going to be easy. You need to work at it. You need to practice it. You need to practice it properly. And that way the people around you will see your faith in action. And hopefully they'll be saying, I wish my faith was as strong as yours. And now you can tell them that the only way that happens is if you exercise it, if you work it out. There's more to it than just believing. You have to exercise it. You have to put it to work. You have to do what's right in the eyes of the Almighty. So, hopefully, you now have an idea of what it's like to actually strengthen your faith. It takes work. It takes exercise. It takes application. It takes practice. Hopefully you can do that without needing to go through some of the things that Dr. Sean did, without going through some of the things that other folks have. Hopefully you can do it just by living the way that you are designed by your Creator to live. So until Thursday, we wish you many, many blessings, everyone.
Be blessed, everyone.